Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line, talking politics. We have with us Dr. Thomas Schwartz, Vanderbilt political science professor, and just talking all kinds of politics. It's great to have you here. Great to be able to talk about this. People are not screaming at each other. We appreciate your point of view. I'm going to take another call. We have Joe, but I'm still going to go back to what Margaret said, being a frustrated Democrat. We'll go back to that in a moment. Let's go to Joe here. Hello, Joe.
Hi, I'm here.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay, well, I appreciate you taking my call, and I just want to say that your guest, although he's seeing maybe, the state of Tennessee as a red state, and that's the way things are going in Tennessee. I mean, there's a lot of other states that are blue states, and that's part of the democratic process of voting. So although we have a republic, states are free and independent, and they vote a certain way, and they tend to swing one way or the other, and then we have the swing states, which, of course, during a presidential election become the states where, presidents are the people that run for presidents are fighting off. Anyway,
right.
There's a lot of states also that want to get rid of the Electoral College because of the democratic process, because of the republic, because they want to say that the majority rules.
Right.
The majority rules in a democracy, and that's part of our election process, is the majority rules. Getting rid of the Electoral College dismisses even the state of Tennessee, because it won't be able to hold up. It doesn't have enough votes in Tennessee to hold up against California and Texas and New York to matter. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to hear your guest comments on that.
I mean, it's certainly relevant, the whole debate over the Electoral College. That's going to come up again.
Yes.
Yeah, walk us through. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I know the argument for majority rule and the sort of one vote to elect the president by the most popular votes, but I actually think that one of the genius elements of the Constitution was the idea of weaving together a very continental dispersion of people by having separate states and by giving them certain privileges within that. And I would not want to see the Electoral College disappear, because I do think it in some ways would prevent majorities on either coast from determining from everyone else. I think you want to have a system in which people buy into, and I think it might be better. I think you could have reforms of the Electoral College. For example, you could have, instead of having all the votes, electoral votes of each state by the majority, whoever wins, you could have it proportionately or something like that. But I'd still prefer to see states have more of a say in the election of the president than to simply turn it over to a popular vote.
We've had two presidents win the popular vote and then lose because of the Electoral College very recently.
Yep.
And so it has brought this conversation up.
Right.
As a historian, when you look back over history, I know it's happened before, have we had it happen like this, where they're two kind of in close succession, and has the Electoral College ever really been threatened?
Well, we had it in succession after the Civil War, in 1876 and then in 1888. So within a short period of time, you had two elections similar to this of the popular vote winner not receiving the election. Yes, the Electoral College has been challenged, most significantly probably in the 1960s, when George Wallace threatened to throw the election into the House of Representatives because he had a regional base in that he benefited by. And there were significant, 50 years ago, there was a constitutional amendment introduced in 1969 to try to get rid of the Electoral College at that time. It didn't go anywhere. And that's partly because, Wallace himself moved into the Democratic Party instead of staying as an independent. But I think that was challenged at that time.
That's fascinating. So there was a challenge in the past. And all right, we can talk more about that. We'll go back to the phones here. Let's go to Don. Hello, Don.
Yes, I'd like to make a statement, man, about that college electoral thing. I just think that they need to just do away with that, because basically that's not really giving the American people who they're choosing to vote for and put them in office. you know, if you got 100 million people voting for one candidate and 50 million voting for another candidate, and then the guy with the 50 million, just because he won a few key states, that means that all the other 50 states or 40-some states, their votes didn't count. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, every vote counts. Well, evidently, every vote don't count.
Right.
Man, I got to disagree with the guy beside you, man. I just think that, you know, they need to do away with that and go with it off the popular vote. It's just like a football game. You know, the other team, if they win 3 quarters, and then the other team beats them in the 4th quarter, and they say, well, the team that won 3 quarters, we're going to let y'all win because basically, you know, y'all won a few little areas there in the game. But this other guy, he's ahead on points, but yet he wins the whole thing because he won 3 quarters of the game.
Right. Now see, that would really upset people. You start changing that. Okay. All right. Well, all right. Thank you, Don. And you said when you were talking before that people need to have confidence in the system, and this has done it for since our founding fathers wanted it this way. I can understand a little bit. I mean, there's certainly an argument from what Don's saying that confidence in the system should be every vote counts, and this gives the sense, well, it doesn't. And so how do we deal? I guess for somebody like Don who thinks this shows every vote doesn't count, and this means some are discounted, what is the argument? I guess take us back to 101 here. Why have it? Why do we not have it based on popular vote? What does that do?
Well, the early days, it literally would have been almost impossible to have a popular vote among a rural and agricultural nation. So the original Electoral College was actually designed as a very elitist notion. The electors were sort of better people who would be selected by state legislators, and then because they knew much more, would select the president. Now, what happened is gradually the electors became subject to the popular vote in specific states and then bound by that to cast their votes. That happened in the sort of Andrew Jackson Revolution when you got a wider suffrage, although it was still only white men with property. You still had a wider suffrage that elected the state representatives and then determined the electoral vote. The problem is the Electoral College, or popular vote, there are all sorts of things within history. One is, for example, say the election of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, Abraham Lincoln won, but only with support from one section of the country. That tends then to lead to discontent in the other half of the country. Now, there's all sorts of other things too, but I think what you want, the Electoral College, if it works properly, what you want is a distribution of votes and support throughout the country. And so I don't think the scenario Don was painting of 100 million for one person and 50 million for the other could ever actually lead to an electoral victory. The numbers don't work that way. What happened in both 2000 and 2016 were essentially almost tied elections, as close as you can within that time. And in that, Donald Trump ran a campaign that was smarter in terms of the Electoral College than Hillary Clinton's campaign. In that sense, she ran up the score in California and New York, but that doesn't help you in the middle of the country and where the other electoral votes were. And everybody knew what the rules were when you went into that. So it's not as if it was one side didn't know that was how the election is going to be decided. I just think that given the divisions, the scale, the size of America, that you want to have some system, and it doesn't have to be exactly the way it is now. And like I said, you could alter the electoral system and make it more proportional in the determination of those votes. But I think you want to have candidates demonstrating support from all regions of the country.
And I thought I heard somewhere that obviously without the Electoral College, you could just campaign in New York and California, right?
Yeah.
And that would almost be enough. Yeah. And so is that what we want? I know Democrats right now are frustrated. Yeah. I think there was a time Republicans were frustrated, right?
That's exactly right, yes.
And so there has been this swing, and so it's fascinating. All right, we're going to take a break. And look, I didn't talk about the frustrated Democrat. Marcus's call. Marcus, I promise. And then Lucy, Fran, others, hold on the line. If you want to call in, there's the number. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.